Some producers are at the board twisting knobs.
Right.
And some producers are not. And they have the engineer to do that.
Sure.
And they talk about, I want more of this, less of that. And they couldn't.
Or they bring in musicians.
Right, right. So which kind are you?
I'm both.
All right, here he is.
You ready? Your album Stunts, Blunts, and Hip Hop meant a lot to me back in the day. And that's why, part of why I wanted to have you come and talk about hip hop and your experiences. But you're a shorty in the Bronx in the 70s.
Right.
So when hip hop culture, we call it rap then.
Right.
Right, was just
wasn't even hip hop yet.
Right, was building. People were doing the parties in the parks that they talk about. Like you were there. Like what did you see as far as the beginning rumblings of rap culture in the Bronx?
Man, you know, I'm from Forest Projects in the South Bronx, so I couldn't even cross the street yet. I must have been about 10 years old. So this is like 79. But I remember, you know, there was a basketball court, and we all called it the Blue Courts, and it was directly behind my building. Fat Joe lived across the street, Lord Finesse lived across the street, and we would just go to the basketball courts.
Wait a minute, but just what did you call Joe and Finesse at that time?
Joe and Rob.
Joe. Okay, so he was always Joe.
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, Joe's older brother Angel, he used to help promote Grandmaster Flash Party. He would like back then. You would pass out flyers, and stuff like that. So Joe's older brother Angel, he was involved with the Furious Five on that level.
Okay,
but get back to your original question. Yeah, you know, I would just go downstairs. Like I said, I couldn't cross the street, but the basketball court just happened to be behind my building, and I would see people like Grand Wizard Theodore, Charlie Chase, Flash sometimes, you know, the L Brothers, which consisted of Theodore, his brother Mean Gene, and the 3 MCs at the time, which was Kevy Kev, Robbie Rob, and Busy B.
See, from what I've gleaned, reading, listening to folks, there was a lot of like, the DJs were popular.
Yeah.
So they are going to the park or whatever at night, plugging into the street lamp.
Yes, that's
right. And the DJ was popular, but then he'd have a mic and people would jump on and rhyme, and you may not ever see that person again. You may not know who that person is, right? And like you had to have enough community respect to even be able to get a chance to, so it would become almost like in New York, we used to have like, you know, poetry night. Like anybody get up and do a poem, right? You know, and the crowd let you know, like you killed it, you didn't kill it, whatever. So is that kind of how it was?
You know, maybe at the beginning. By the time I rolled around, Rapper's Delight was out.
Okay.
So you know, it had already been out maybe about 5 years. But to touch on what you said, Grandmaster Flash, he told me stories about when he first started, he only had one MC, and that was Cowboy.
Right.
And that's how, you know, and that's how Cowboy came into the fold. You know, Flash would just leave the mic up, like you said, and, you know, whoever thought they can rhyme could come up there. So Cowboy is one of the first, and he became Flash's MC. After that, Kid Creole came into the fold. So Flash had he only had 2 MCs at that time. Melly Mel and Scorpio, they both told me that they were breakdancers. They weren't even rapping first. And they would bug Flash to get on the mic.
Well, at that time, everybody had at least 2 elements of rap in them.
Yes.
You weren't just a rapper or just a DJ. You would also write on a wall, beatbox, dance. Everybody, and a lot of people, maybe not even famous people, would do all 4. And that would be your day, that you go and then you go dance, and then you rap a little, and you DJ a little. That's your life.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I didn't even know Melly Mel and Scorpio were break dancers until they told me. You know, and Mel said his brother Kid Creole would always be like, nah, you know, you're not gonna be an MC. You know, his brother was totally against it. And Melly Mel told me that Flash let him get on the mic one day, and you know he ripped it, and he brought Scorpio along with him. You know, and Scorpio and Melly Mel, they lived across the street from Forest Projects, so it's a lot of history where I come from.
Yeah,
that zip code 10456. A lot of history with hip hop. Right there.
When did you start thinking about maybe I could be in this, I could do this?
Man, it had to be about, I think my mom bought me some equipment, you know, mismatched turntables or whatever, probably about 81.
Okay.
But you know, I'm in my
about
bedroom.
13.
Right.
Okay.
So I'm in my bedroom. You know, I'm not outside doing parties and none of that. It was just something, it was a hobby. You know, but you know, I used to go to the jams as a kid, and I was perplexed at all of these what they call break beats, all of these different albums with just these little drum parts that the DJs would cut back and forth. So I was
were fascinated by the instrumentals.
Hmm?
You were fascinated by the instrumentals.
Right, well, by the break beats.
Okay.
These are the records that had drum beats on them, and the DJ would go from one turntable to another and just keep the beat going.
Right.
But the break beats, you know, they came from rock, disco,
yeah,
you know, soul,
James
funk.
Brown.
Right, yeah, James Brown. That's just one element.
Yeah.
You know, there's a hip hop anthem called The Mexican. The Mexican is a rock record. The group is called Babe Ruth. That's just one example. There's many examples of disco records that became hip hop records.
Hell yeah.
You know, so
I mean, we could like grab anything,
right,
and loop it up and make it hip hop.
As long as it's funky.
Yeah, hell yeah.
You know, so there's a misconception that hip hop breaks were only funk and soul records.
No.
It was pulled from all different genres.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was just transfixed on that. I was like breakbeat crazy.
Okay.
I would go to my relative's house and go through their records to see if I could find any drum parts. And that's how it started with me. You know, I wasn't rhyming yet. I was just a DJ. But my whole world revolved around finding these fucking records with these little drum
So you're already
parts.
thinking like a producer, right? Because a DJ would a pure DJ would look at it differently, right? Like, how do I rock a party? How do I get from one record to another?
Yes.
You're looking for what can I grab that I can loop and make into a song.
Not yet.
But you're on that path of like, where's the break beat?
But yeah,
like, that's the producer thinking.
There are no samplers. But I will say this, Touré, and it's the fact. Most well-known and great producers, we all started off as DJs.
Yes.
You know, Dr. Dre.
Premier.
Timberland, Premier.
Yeah.
You know, I can go on and on.
Mark Ronson.
Yes. 45 King.
Yes.
Prince Paul, Marley Marl.
Questlove went the other way.
Hank Shockley. Yes. So DJing gave you the skill for timing and blending.
And the relationship with the audience. You see exactly what part of the record makes them
get hyped.
Yes.
Right. And how does that carry over to producing is in producing, there are no turntables, but you're layering sounds.
Yes.
So it's like you're mixing, but without turntables. Now you're just layering the sounds. So that's the correlation between early hip hop production and DJing. But yeah, man, you know, those were some good times.
You've been through many eras of hip hop. Like, when I think about the sound of the 80s,
right,
it's very Marley Marl,
yes.
right?
Yes.
Echoey, almost like evoking like you're in those clubs or dance halls where they were doing it.
Yes.
After him, let's say you get into the 90s, it's a cleaner, crisper sound, right? Which is part of why Wu-Tang stands out, because it's so raw,
right,
and sounds like they didn't know what they were doing and they made it in their bedroom, even though they didn't.
Right.
But it becomes a very clean. So just talk about how you see the sound has developed throughout the period you've been closely paying attention.
Well, let's start with Run DMC, right?
Oof.
When Run DMC came on the scene, what made them special was they stripped the sound down
Rick Rubin
to the beatbox.
Yes.
Prior to Run DMC, it was the Sugar Hill era where they had live musicians.
And Sugar Hill was very rapping over disco. Running them were rapping over rock.
Right. And that's another example of the correlation between hip hop and disco. Good Times by Chic is a disco record.
Absolutely.
But that's one of the foundations of hip hop.
Absolutely.
MC's rapping. In fact, it's rapper's delight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it went from live bands to Run DMC sound where they stripped it down to the beatbox. You know, then Mantronic touched on that. Then here comes Marley Marl. Now when Marley comes around, there's samplers.
Right.
So when Marley Marl made the bridge, what made the bridge so special was it sounded like a park jam.
Yes.
Because he took that break, impeached the president, and he sampled the kick and the snare and the hi-hat, and it just gave it a rawness of an early park jam.
Yes.
So that ushered in the sample era. And of course, MC Shan, he did his thing on there, you know, and then, now this is the SB12 era. Okay, so that's Marley Marl. But then now here comes the Bomb Squad and Public Enemy. And they had this great big wall of sound.
Oh my God.
But now they're pulling from everything. They're pulling from rock,
jazz,
Meters, you know, James Brown,
Malcolm X,
you know,
whatever,
Funkadelic, everything.
You could listen to those Public Enemy records, every day for a year and pick up some little. Oh, I never heard that sound in that part of the song.
Right, that's right. And you know, a good example of that is "Fight the Power."
Yes.
Whenever I hear "Fight the Power," I just hear little thing, like you said, people might not even notice it, but there's so many elements in that song, "Fight the Power." I was a huge Bomb Squad fan. I love Hank Shockley, Eric Sadler, his brother Keith.
I loved the Bomb Squad so much that, because I was a New York snob.
Okay.
Right? Wasn't really fucking with the West Coast that hard.
Okay.
But then when they got with Cube, I was like, yo.
Right.
That was so they made me and then I went back and was like, okay, you know,
about the Bomb Squad.
Yeah, but that went back on Cube and like he's a legend, right? From day one. But I wasn't really messing with him until he got with the Bomb Squad on his solo album, and now I was like, yo, this is incredible.
Right. But check this out, T. To touch on that, and even Dr. Dre told me this when I was sitting in Dre's house and we was talking, and I said, Dre, you had to be a big. I don't know if I used the word big, but I said you had to be a fan of the Bomb Squad. Yeah. Because when I listen to niggas, when I listen to the album Niggas for Life, it sounds like a Bomb Squad production.
Of course.
He said, Diamond, I love the Bomb Squad. In fact, whenever they would release an album, I would be one of the first to hit Tower Records and pick it up.
Hell yeah.
So without me even asking Dre, I kind of knew that. And then when I spoke to him, he confirmed it. The Bomb Squad, they revolutionized everything. You know, and like I said, your
music has been a little jazzier, right? It's that real hip hop, right? But you love a horn, right? Which you know, which we've seen other people like Tribe Called Quest do. Like we love that horny.
That's my era I came up in.
Yeah, yeah. So, like, where did that come from in your experience?
I can't really pinpoint it, but I will say I was mainly influenced by the Bomb Squad and the first albums from De La, 3 Feet High and Rising. These guys are sampling Steely Dan and Led Zeppelin and Johnny Cash. You know, there's the title track. Well, 3 is the magic number.
Yeah.
Got Johnny Cash in there. You got Led Zeppelin. Got fucking Bob Dorough. He made the Schoolhouse Rock album. They pulling from all of these shits, but the shit sounded so fucking amazing.
So amazing.
You know what I mean? So
they definitely expanded Prince Paul and expanded our vision of like what could be hip hop. Like, holy shit.
Because up until then, everybody was James Browned out.
Yeah.
88, you know, from the Bomb Squad, everybody's James Browned out.
Yeah.
You know, and then here comes De La, and then here comes Tribe Called Quest.
Yes.
And the Jungle Brothers, you know, who kind of carried on with that tradition, with just sampling from different elements, but still making it funky and raw. So my first album, Stunts, Blunts, and Hip Hop, is just basically an extension of that. You know, I pull from different genres also.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you rap on that one, because you've been talking to as a producer, right? Because you're rapping on that like right in the pocket, right? And like some producers, you're like, okay, he's the producer,
right?
It's fine, you know. Dr. Dre's not a great rapper, but he made the song, so we'll ride with it. You don't have to agree with that because he's your friend.
All right.
But I was staying strong. He's not a good rapper, but we accept it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, Pete Rock raps in his own way, which is kind of interesting because his approach to the rhyme is interesting. But, you know, he's like, that's why we let CL do that. But you're like just a rapper. Just like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not like, oh, he just produced the joint. Like,
and nobody wrote no rhymes for me.
You wrote for yourself.
I've never had a ghostwriter. You know, I was being around Lord Finesse. And at the time, I was producing Brand Nubians, Punks Jump Up to Get Beat Down. So I'm around all these dope MCs. And, you know, being the DJ, I knew the pocket.
Talk about that, because that's my favorite thing when MCs get in the pocket. Like, how do you do that?
Just have a sense of timing, where to fall in between the lines. I was blessed with that. Even if my first album wasn't
behind
great.
The beat, right? You don't want to be on the if you rap on the beat,
you sound robotic.
It's corny, right? That's when you're doing comedy rap, you rap on the beat, right? KRS talked about this with like you rap a little behind the beat and it sounds cool, right? Like, how do you do that?
Right. Well, you know, like my personal experiences, I would say it has a lot to do with the time I spent when I started off as a DJ, and you know, just listening to music as a whole. You know, listening to funk records, jazz records, where sometimes the drummer might play a little slow or a little off. You know, Jay Dilla picked up on that with his drums. You know, it's just having a good sense of timing, and I incorporated that whenever I rhyme.
Talk about your new album, The Rear View.
Yeah.
You said Stunts, Blunts, and Hip Hop was 30 years ago?
Crazy.
So you've been... I feel like, wow.
Crazy. Everybody going on 30th anniversary tours. Myself, Jungle Brothers, Beat Nuts, Tribe, Pete Rock, the CL, you know, this Naughty by Nature. We on our 30th right now.
I love every part of that.
Yeah.
Where are you now as an MC and a producer? Like, how has your philosophies and opinions on how it should be done changed over the 30 years?
Well, I can give a long answer, but the short answer would be anybody who fucks with me or follows me, listen to my rhymes and what I was doing on Stunts Blunts to my rhymes and what I'm doing on The Rear View. It's like night and day. It's like night and day. Obviously, if you've been doing something as long as I have, you should be better.
Yeah.
You know, and lyrically, I'm better. My metaphors, you know, when I first started, I was just happy to be there, you know, and it shows. You know, Stunts Blunt is basically a happy album. That's not to say The Rear View is a mean or aggressive album.
But you were
in a
just
different space.
You were just happy to be there with your first album. Right now, now what's the feeling?
Now I'm just certifying my claim as one of the best, if not the best, producer who rhymes, who writes his own rhymes. There are producers who rap, who have had ghostwriters, and who have sold more records than me. And that's cool. Because at the end of the day, it's a business. So if you have somebody on your team and their pen game is better than yours, by all means do so. But for the rap purists, for the hip hop purists in the culture, if you don't write your own rhymes, you can't call yourself an MC. That's just how it is. That's just how it is.
You think not writing is disqualifying completely? I'm
sure, because when hip hop started out, you wrote your own rhymes.
No, of course.
I can't have somebody write my rhymes. They haven't lived my life.
I mean, you know, it's hard to argue because I can't think of somebody who is a great rhyme sayer who supposedly doesn't write their own shit. Right.
I mean, hey, they out there. You know them. See, we ain't got to name them.
Well, we could name them. I think Kanye is probably the best rapper who doesn't write his own shit.
Who?
Kanye.
Okay.
Probably the best, because I think
he writes too.
He writes something, but he clearly buys rhymes.
He's had a ghostwriter or two.
Yeah, or more than a couple.
Well, whatever.
Honestly, I don't think it's a terrible.
No,
I don't think it's a terrible mark on your. I guess I don't know that I believe.
That's why I said for the hip hop purists.
No, I'm a hip hop purist.
Okay,
I'm trying to grapple with. Do I completely? I mean, I keep coming back to it doesn't matter because nobody does it so well. Like if you said to me like, let's just say a name, Nas don't write all that shit.
Okay.
I'd be like, but he's still one of the greatest of all time.
Right.
Like without question. But there's no case like that. Andre, Black Thought, Jay, like they write their own shit.
Correct.
Like Kendrick, they write their own. Right. So I mean, like it, I don't think of Kanye as like a top 15 MC. He's not that good.
All right.
You don't want to speak on it. Wait, right. Who's your top 5 rappers?
My top 5 MCs?
Yeah.
Man, I mean, it's changed from day to day. I would put Black Thought in there.
Yes.
I would put, Jay-Z in there.
Yes.
I would put Big Pun in there.
Ooh.
Today I would put Kool G Rap in there.
Okay.
The 5th, one day could be Nas, the other day could be Rakim, the other day could be KRS-One.
Yeah.
My top 5, it fluctuates.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's hard to pick 5. Also, I think that you should break it down by decade.
Interesting. Because the decades are different. The decades, the whole thing is different.
Yeah, and that would be more realistic. You just can't name 5.
It is hard to compare eras. Because Rakim, for example, incredible MC.
Yes.
His career is very short compared to Jay and Nas.
Correct.
Because in the 80s, you didn't have a long career.
Right.
You didn't make a ton of albums.
Also, you got to judge it by their influence.
Yeah.
Remember
the amount of influence.
There's people rapping before Rakim, and then there's people rapping after Rakim.
He is absolutely the person who turns the chapter and creates. This is the modern form of rapping,
right?
100%.
Yes.
No one has more influence than him,
right?
But then I will think about like, okay, how many dope albums do you have, right? And he doesn't.
Right.
Because that's not what you did. So to your point of like, we really should break it out by decade in terms of what you did in the 80s, he's the king.
Yeah.
How do you compare...
Kool G Rap also, and Kane.
Absolutely.
Right.
How do you compare their careers, which are relatively shorter, to Jay, Nas, 3K, Black Thought? Like their careers are longer because that's what you do now.
Okay, well, if you want to use that barometer... Biggie only had 2 albums,
I know,
and a bunch of remixes,
I know.
a bunch of collabos.
It's a relatively short career.
Yes, but it's
incredible.
He's heralded as one of the best ever.
He is.
Okay,
he is.
So
he is. It's tricky with the Big and a Rakim when the careers are short for whatever reason. Right. That doesn't mean I don't downgrade them.
No, not at all.
But I gotta say, like, damn, Kendrick made what 4 or 5 incredible albums. Like, does that doesn't rate.
Right.
I think that means a lot.
Well, it's also content. Maybe some of the people who were into Rakim and Biggie and Nas might not be into Kendrick. Those 3 rappers were more street.
Yeah. Well,
Kendrick is street, but it's just an intelligent level.
Yeah.
That's not to say that those 3 aren't.
No.
It's just, I know how fans are.
Yeah.
There's people who will never like Black Thought.
That's
because he don't rhyme the street shit.
Yeah.
They're closed-minded to me.
He comes from that, though. He's that.
Yo.
I mean.
He's that dude.
He's real.
But there are some elements of the street who like that street, who like the street gangster shit, who just will not go to a Black Thought show.
So wait, so
it doesn't take away from him.
So you grow up with Fat Joe.
Right.
When did he start working on the street and selling? Approximately.
I think Joe started hustling maybe like 80, 86, 87, 88.
So what's that?
Right
Teenager?
The Rakim era.
Okay. When he's but when Joe's a teenager.
Yes. Teenager. You know, Joe had the Dapper Dan shit back then. You look at Lord Finesse first video, strictly for the ladies.
So he was a big deal on the street.
Oh, locally.
Yeah. As far as the Bronx.
People definitely heard about Joe. Him and his man Tony Montana, rest in peace. I remember when Joe approached me on a corner, 165th and Trinity. He said, "Yo, D, you know, I want to rhyme." And
you had been knowing him forever.
Well, yeah. Well, we grew up together. Me and Joe used to do graffiti together.
Okay.
Before he started hustling.
Okay.
So I knew him from that. We would go bombing like in the neighborhood. You know.
What was your tag?
Z-Rock.
Okay. So there you go. There you go. Did you dance? Did you b-boy?
Electric Boogie.
So there you go. You did all.
Me and Joe, Electric Boogie.
You did all four elements.
Right.
As part of your life. There
I think
you go.
Anyone in their late 40s, early 50s, you at some point you had to have done more than one element.
Oh,
because we all started off dancing in the street.
I mean, Rakim told me all four elements were a normal part of his day. Nas said the same thing.
Rakim was DJ, what, Kid Wizard?
Oh,
Kid Wiz?
Yeah, Kid Wiz. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
He still DJ. KRS, same thing.
Same thing.
So Joe says, "I want to rap."
I want to rap.
Were you like, what?
It threw me off, but I believed it because he was into hip hop.
Okay.
You know, a lot of dudes who hustled, you know, they still lived in the hood and they still rode around listening to hip hop. So back then, there was a studio we used to go to called K-Rock Studios in the Bronx. And back then, the sessions might have been like $30 an hour. So I told Joe, listen, if you pay for your studio sessions, I'll do the music for you. Don't even worry about it. And out of those sessions came the Red Alert promos. That's how Joe got his exposure. He would do these promos for Red Alert in his radio show. And one of the promos was the Beat the Flow Joe. And that's how the whole thing came about. Chris Lighty was managing me at the time. So I plugged him into Fat Joe, and Chris Lighty signed Fat Joe to his imprint deal. He had an imprint deal with Relativity. And that's the start of Fat Joe's music career.
Chris Lighty was a man.
Yes. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. You produced one of the great records of that period, Punk Jump Up to Get Beat Down.
Thank you, sir.
Brand new beat.
Thank you.
That record was fire.
Right.
That year, any year. Talk about making that record with them. Because they were already on fire.
Right. But
before that record.
The hip hop community, about 80%, thought that without Pooh-Bah, they'd be dead.
Yes, because Pooh-Bah was the rap star of the group.
Right. He's the one that put them on.
Right.
But
so he hold on. Solo.
Hold on. Prior to Punk's Jump Up, this came from Lord Jamar's voice now. This is Lord Jamar talking to me. On Stunts Busting Hip Hop, I had a song called Day in the Life. Just a day in the life of 3 black men,
right,
which featured Lord Jamar and Sadat X.
Right.
Pooh-Bah's not on there. So that gave them a little courage. When I did Punk's Jump Up to Get...
Are you saying that they needed that boost to know themselves that they could do it without Pooh-Bah?
Somewhat. You know, everybody wants to prove to themselves they can do it.
Uh-huh.
Everybody. When we did Punk's Jump Up, that led to them getting the well, I'm not gonna say it led to them because they already had an album deal, but that kind of cemented that we can do this without Pooh-Bah if we have to. Because Pooh-Bah's not on Punk's Jump Up to Get Beat Down.
Right.
And it still did what it did.
Right.
But Jamar definitely said that those 2 songs specifically gave them a little push that, you know, if we got to do it without Puba, even though we'd rather not, but if we got to, we can still move on.
Just the beat itself is fire, and there's like an alarm in it that, like, you know what I mean, that would that I think would propel, because I was in the clubs at that point.
Sure.
Not anymore. But and it would sort of propel you. It was something in it that was sort of like sonic adrenaline. Like the record would come on, you'd be like, yeah.
Right.
Like, what was that?
I mean, just everything. You know, I think those Rocky horns. I took the first three notes. You know what I mean?
I did not know.
Sure, you didn't know that.
Rocky. Oh, wow. And like, I didn't know, but I did know, right? Like, some part of me heard it and made the connection, even though, right? Like, I couldn't name it, but like, because you get amped when you hear that Rocky horn, right? And you took a piece of that. Oh,
first three notes, bang, 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 bang. Four notes.
Now, are you sort of producer who's coaching the vocalist, or you just let them rock? Like, are you, because Sadat...
It depends on the artist.
Right.
I didn't coach the Nubians.
Right.
I laid the beat. They went in there and did what they did, and that was it. I didn't coach them, but some artists I will give my input.
Joe needs more help, right?
I never really coached Joe either.
Really?
No.
Because he developed a lot from the first album to the artist that he's become.
Sure, we all have, but yeah, people say that, you know, and like I said earlier outside, when Joe got around Pun, it made him step his game up.
Yes.
But that goes for any MC. If you're around somebody who's a little nicer than you, because, you know, we're all competitive.
Yes.
You know, so they're going to push you. You know, the same way Lord Finesse pushed me, the same way AG pushed me, the same way being around Grand Puba when I was on Strong City Records pushed me. Puba was in a group called the Masters of Ceremonies.
Yes.
They had a song called Sexy with Don Barron. And I was in a group called the Ultimate Force. But my point is, when you're around nice people, you get nicer.
Well, what do you see as the commonalities of the great MCs? You worked with KRS, Busta. You talk about Puba,
right?
Busta, Mos Def. Not to leave anybody out, but like you work with elite level historical people.
Right.
So what are some of the commonalities of the elite MCs?
A certain confidence, you know, a certain belief in themselves, flows, livery, cadence, and you know, and all of those artists you name, you know, that they're all students of the game also. But you know, I didn't have to coach any of those artists you just named, any of them.
And you work with KRS a lot.
Yes,
he's a crazy person.
Right? Yeah. Chris is that guy, definitely. All around.
Talk about working with him.
Oh man, I first worked with Chris on his album. I believe it's called I Got Next. Either I Got Next or KRS-One, or maybe both of them. This is maybe 97, 98. Yeah. And we recorded in Unique Studios right around the corner from here. Never forget that. The engineer was Commissioner Gordon. Ooh. He went on to do great things.
Yeah.
But it was just a matter of time before me and Chris hooked up, because, you know, he's from the South Bronx. I'm from the South Bronx.
Yeah.
And we would always talk about it, and then we finally made it happen. And you know, my favorite song I did with Chris is called Build Your Skills. And Busta's on that track at the beginning. I think all in all, I might have produced about 3 or 4 tracks on KRS-One, but Build Your Skills is the one that stands up. And there's also one called Let Me Tell You What I Know, which wasn't released. It was leaked somehow. But those two are my standout tracks I did on KRS.
I mean, if we were to think about these people, these MCs, as athletes, Busta Rhymes would be like, yo, he's like Vince Carter. Like he's like a different level of athlete from everybody else. The sound of the voice, the speed of the mouth, all these sort of things. Like, you know, the tonality and the melody. I mean, he's one of the most extraordinary MCs ever.
Correct. And me and Bus, we go back to when I did the remix for Leaders of the New School. I remixed a song called Classic Material. And then a few years later, we both were on Violator Management. So, it just meshed. I
miss remix culture.
Yeah.
It used to be, if you made a hit, there would be here, we're gonna play with the song, add some guests, add new verses. It's kind of the same song, but it's kind of a new song.
Right. This is back when you would buy a 12-inch, like you said, it'll be the album version,
right?
The remix, the acapella,
right? You know what happened, and it was almost like a movie. Like, oh, you like that? Oh, here's part 2,
right?
Or a sequel to
right. I don't know what happened. It's like the game kind of got away from the remix. But I never thought about that till you said it.
I miss also mixtape culture.
Yeah. Shouts out to Kid Capri.
Yes, people would do things on mixtapes that they would try new styles, say different rhymes that's iller or whatever than what they were saying on their own. And like, I was like, yo, you got to get the new mixtape. Ron G, right, would have, a new Busta verse, a new Jadakiss verse, whatever. That
Tony Touch.
Yes.
Can't forget Doo-Wop.
Yeah, Doo-Wop's tapes were crazy. I missed that. That was an important part of hip-hop culture that just sort of like went away.
I don't know, T, but I never really thought about it until you just said it. And that's so true. I would say maybe the last great mixtape era might have been 50 Cent and what he was doing prior to getting signed by Eminem.
I mean, he dropped 4 whole albums on the street.
Like crazy.
And
it led to Eminem signing them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, like he understood that. Like he created a huge buzz.
Yes.
By putting out a ton of material. Right. At a time when nobody knew, and he knew from the beginning the power of beef.
Yes.
Right. The first time you heard of him was
How to Rob.
How to Rob. Right, where he talked about how this record is so great, how he would rob each individual who is a star in the industry relative to who they were and what fit with their brand. It was so funny, it made so many people mad, and it was like the perfect hello, I'm in the game.
I'm here. Yeah, definitely.
What you gonna do? I'll say whatever. What are you gonna do?
Right,
crazy. New York hip hop has changed a lot too, right? Okay. We used to be, I think
we had our own sound.
We had our own sound. We were the dominant force in hip hop. I don't think that's true anymore. What do you think?
Well, to a certain extent, yeah.
What has happened?
You're 100% right.
What has happened? I'm not saying we're whack. We got a lot of hot MCs coming out of New York.
Like any genre of music, hip hop expanded. It expanded.
Yeah.
And New York, we were snobs. Yeah. We hated on everybody.
I was the biggest snob.
And we hated on the South.
We
hated on the West.
They rhyme
hated
so
on the West.
slow.
Wait, let me finish. But I tell my friends in the South, New York hate on New York. Fuck them niggas in Harlem. Fuck them niggas in Queens. Fuck them niggas in Brooklyn. Fuck them niggas in the Bronx.
Hell yeah, Staten
That's just
Island.
New York.
Fuck Staten Island.
Man, they got it the
that?
worst.
Fuck you.
You asked the Force MCs, they had to get on the ferry boat, come all the way to Harlem World to get some respect. Back then.
Hell yeah.
So my point is,
but you're right. It was I was definitely like, yo, the South, they rhyme too slow on board. The West, they rhyme too slow on board. That was the worst.
But when both of those regions got to carry the ball, they turned the mirror on New York.
Oh, yeah.
Now fuck y'all.
Well, my eyes got open when people were like, yo, you know this West Coast rapper that you look down on got double platinum, right? And you know this Southern rapper that you ain't fucking with got triple platinum, right? And I'm like, my guys are gold, and these guys are double and triple. What are they doing? And Puffy changed that.
Right.
Right. But like, it was a good minute. It was like, damn, they sell it. Like, what am I doing? You know, but we all had to open our ears up.
Right. And, you know, me, I was always open-minded. You know, I'm one of the first East Coast producers to work with West Coast acts. The Alcoholics, Exhibit, House of Pain, Cypress Hills, Razzcast, Far Side. When Outkast first started out, I remixed Southern Playalistic.
Ooh, that record was insane.
What I mean? So I was, you know, I was always open-minded.
What led to you being open-minded enough to check for the West Coast when a lot of people like me around New York were like,
Right. Well, all the artists that I named reached out to me.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And, you know, it made me like say, okay, wow. You know what I mean? You know, so it definitely helped my career to have all of those names I just named on the West Coast and Outkast, Illegal, the Little Kids. Me and Eric Sermon did them. They were down in Atlanta also with Dallas Austin.
Yo, Eric Sermon.
Yes.
Hey.
You know what I mean? So,
Yo, Exhibit had a really interesting instrument in terms of his voice.
Yes.
His voice is really unique and special and deep.
And I left out, did I name Exhibit?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because he, you know, I did him too. And that, because Exhibit, he was down with the Liquids.
So
when he first came out, he was down with the Liquids.
If I'm Exhibit or whoever, and I call you, yo, I need a record.
Right.
Do you just say, well, I've been producing beats, here's what I've been working on?
No.
Or do you say, what do you want to do? Who are you? And then I'm going to make something for you.
Right. When Exhibit reached out to me, I flew out to LA. And like I said, I was already working with the Alcoholics.
So everything is custom.
Right. I produced a song called Bird's Eye View on Exhibit's first album. And I went out there, we went in the studio. You know, I played him a couple of records that I had ideas with some samples on them. And we just made it happen. You know, everything was quick. You know, an Exhibit, he's real quick in the studio. You know, maybe one or two takes.
How long does it take you to make a beat?
A few hours. I don't know, 3 or 4 hours.
3 or 4 hours from nothing.
From nothing, right?
So you said you would make a new beat for me,
right?
So what would you what do you like? Would you think about who I am as an MC? Are you asking me questions? Like what would you do?
Well, I would say let me hear what you got for the album so far.
Okay.
Just so I can see the direction.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And then I'll ask them, do you want me to try to fit what you're doing? Or do you want me to give you the Diamond D sound on the East Coast? And so you're so flexible, I could give you my thing, or I could fit into your thing. Right. You know, I never tried to force myself on anybody I worked with. It was always organic. I never was the type to go like, yo, here's the beat and that's that. You can't work like that with people. Right. You know, people got egos and it's just a sensitivity thing. You should always consider what the artist's direction, because their direction might not be your direction. So communication is very important as a producer. Okay. So you're saying, what have you done already? Right. Can I hear it? Right. And what else? Are you thinking about what I've done in the past? Are you thinking about the marketplace? Like, right. Well, no, the flip side is if they're reaching out to me, they already like what I'm doing. Right, but your vision of them. Right. Of me. Okay. Right? Like you're going to say, so you've been doing gangster records in the past. We're still doing that. We switching it up. Like, yeah, I would ask those questions. But if they play me the songs they have so far, that'll answer a lot of questions that I have. Okay. You know what I mean? Okay. Yes, sir. Okay, so then you see, who are the producers, because we talk about your top 5 MCs, who are your top 5 producers? Then or now? Now. Wow, now. All time. Man, all time. You're going to put me on the spot. All right. It's hard to pick 5, but yes, it is. And just like MCs, my top 5, it changes from day to day. Fair. Today, I would say, of course, Dr. Dre. I would put Battle Cat in there. People were surprised.
Wow.
I would put Battle Cat in there. I would put Knots in there. There's two more slots left. Oh man. I said Dre, Battle Cat, Knots. I would put Jay Dilla in there.
Okay. Just
for what he did while he was here. And 5 would either be I'll give Pete Rock 5.
Okay.
You know, but you know, I love what Q-Tip did. I love what Large Professor does. I love what High Tech does. Of course, my little brother Lord Finesse. Lord Finesse is is the only East Coast producer to produce a track for Dr. Dre. People forget that.
Scott.
Yeah.
Scott Storch.
Scott, of course. Scott,
but he produced for Dre.
He did.
And he's from Philly.
I stand corrected. Right. No doubt. Scott's a little later, but Finesse was on that second album.
Yeah.
But T, you know, those are some of the producers.
What about RZA? I thought you were gonna say RZA.
I love RZA.
Okay.
But he's not in my top 5. He's in my top 10.
Okay. I bring up RZA specifically because he created his own sound.
No doubt.
Which Timbaland did, Pharrell did. Right. You'll know right away. To me, as a producer, to create your own sound, which Dre absolutely does.
Yeah.
To me, that's a higher achievement.
Right.
Like those sort of guys, and you think we could map out a history of modern hip hop sound, going from Dre to RZA to Timbaland to Pharrell, right? Like there was a time when those guys like controlled the radio,
right?
Not to give radio too much props, but like they had a dominant. I mean, I feel like I remember times of like you're in the club and a Timbaland record is on, you get in the cab.
What I love about RZA was he didn't give a fuck. Like it's gonna be raw.
Yeah.
It's going to be right in your face.
Dirty.
You know what I mean? So RZA brought back that feeling. You know what I mean?
We've been in hip-hop for a long time, and that means that we've lost a lot of friends. And like, we recently were talking about Trugoy from De La Soul. But there's been so many people, right? You had Big L on your first album. Big Pun's a friend. A lot. All of us have said, Biz Marquee. We could go on and on, right? I mean, like, how do you even feel? How do you process like this being in hip hop culture? Like a lot of people die at an untimely age. Like, how do you even deal with that?
Man, just makes you aware of your own mortality. You know what I mean? Yeah. You learn to appreciate being here, to still create, to still pursue your dreams, if you will, not to take time for granted. You know what I mean? A lot of people are not here who should be here. People you named, Jay Dilla, Jam Master Jay. It's a lot. Prince Markie D. It's a lot. So with me specifically, it just taught me to appreciate every day you have here. And just don't take shit for granted. Every day is another day to do something great if you're striving for greatness.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard to think about how much grieving we've done, and it's not just violence. A lot of natural causes.
Yeah. Health issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Your foundation, Digging in the Crates, DITC. Talk about that. What are you guys doing?
Say it again.
What are you doing? Who
currently?
Yeah.
Everybody's doing their own thing. I don't really have much more to say. Everybody doing their own thing. Finesse is DJing now. He rhymes when he wants to rhyme. OC is doing his own thing. I think he put out some music not too long ago. Of course, Fat Joe is doing his thing. AG's doing everybody's doing their own thing.
Showbiz and AG had their first album was incredible.
Yeah, definitely. Runaway Slave, classic.
What happened? Like, why did that not become a longer career from them? Like, is that industry?
I can't answer. I don't even know. I don't know. Both of our albums dropped on the same day, in fact. Runaway Slave and Stunts Blunts in Hip Hop. We were both under the Mercury umbrella. It was Mercury at the time. The Mercury Polygram has been absorbed by Universal. But none of our albums got the push it should have got. You know, they're like cult status albums.
Yeah.
You know, both of our albums. Hip hop purists love them.
Yeah.
But at the time with Polygram, they were more concerned with Hanson. Vanessa Williams.
Oh my God.
Brian McKnight. You know, Joe.
But a lot of people have said, right, Joe. I remember Joe.
Sure.
A lot of people have said the music industry is not good at fostering and aiding creativity.
To a certain extent. You know, but we were just these little hip hop groups, you know what I mean? And we were signed to smaller labels. I was signed to Chemistry PWL, which was distributed by Mercury. Showbiz and AG, they were signed to Payday Records, which was the umbrella of London, which was a subsidiary of Polygram. So a lot of times, if you're a subsidiary, of course, a major label is going to focus their attention on the groups that the major label signed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's just the politics of it. But both great albums.
Ask everybody, what is your superpower that the thing that you do better than other people that has led to your success? Because you've been doing this at a very high level for a long time.
My ear for production. I think that's it. You know, I have a formula and I have a sound, but I have range. You know,
musical range.
Correct.
Yeah.
Do the Bus a Bus doesn't sound like what I did for KRS-One. That doesn't sound like what I did for Queen Latifah. That doesn't sound like what I did for Pharcyde. Pharcyde doesn't sound like what I did for Cypress Hill.
Because you can do anything.
Basically.
So could you produce a Taylor Swift record?
Sure. No question. But I would still make it Diamond D. But I would incorporate some of her elements. Maybe bring in some live instrumentation. And just give her that, with the drums or whatever, or my arrangements. You got to be a chameleon. You know what I mean? You know, one of my idols is Quincy Jones.
Yes.
You know, what Quincy did with James Ingram and Patty Austin, he didn't do for the Brother Johnsons. What he did for the Brother Johnsons, he didn't do for Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Okay.
So some producers are at the board twisting knobs.
Right.
And some producers are not. And they have the engineer to do that.
Sure.
And they talk about, I want more of this, less of that. And they couldn't.
Or they bring in musicians.
Right. So which kind are you?
I'm both.
Okay.
I'll bring in a string section, a bass player, guitar player. Quincy Jones, he didn't program those drum machines, but he hired musicians. I want you to do this. And he'll draw out the bass scale. Tell the bass player, this is what I want you to play. Draw out the horn scale. The horn players, I want y'all to play this. So he's a producer and arranger. All the musicians are just hired help. And even though he's not physically banging on a drum machine or playing an instrument, he's still a producer.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, sir.
So you
I
could
do both.
You could twist the knobs if you wanted to.
Of course, that's what I do.
But mostly you do or you don't?
No, I do. But like I said, if I'm producing something and it needs some more instrumentation to make the track sound bigger, then I will incorporate some live musicianship. And that's evident on my new album, The Rear View. You hear a lot of that. It's not just everything on the MPC, that you limit yourself sonically. You know what I mean? So that's one of the things I picked up along my journey.